Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to, you ready? Ask Commissioner Campbell to say a few words.
I'd like to introduce a couple of people. Last month, I apologize, I didn't introduce Joe Shine. Joe Shine is
Commissioner.
with us.
Can you pull a little bit closer?
Yes, sir.
They're not picking it up, the recording. And just one note too, the mics are going to be hot the whole time, so just keep that in mind.
That's okay.
Thank you, Brandon.
I want to introduce a couple of people that we work together in Shreveport at our office up there. Joe Shine is a young man who works for us in our office up in Shreveport. His dad, a lot of people remember the name Joe Shine. His dad was a sort of a famous politician up in Shreveport a long, long time. He's his daddy. His dad served on the city council and Polish juries there for 20, 25 years. Joe is a LSU graduate and he's doing well for us up in Shreveport, very courteous, and he came with us today. Joe, where are you? And a lot of y'all have been praying for me, and I'm sure it worked because I had a great assistant, Bill Robinson, who retired, and then I had another great guy, Gary Hobbs, and he took a job at a church to get away from me. But anyway, I had been looking for an assistant for a long, long time, and everybody would call and try to say, look, I'm trying to help you, and that and the other. And I was able to get a lady that's very qualified to come help us. She's from Shreveport. Her name is Frances Tutu Baker. Frances Baker is a lawyer, a nice woman who is a criminal defense lawyer. Tutu argued a case for the United States Supreme Court at a very young age and won. And so we're very fortunate. Only Fontham is the only guy that's ever been to the Supreme Court here in this crowd. So you got Fontham, you got somebody up here equal to you. But went to the Supreme Court at a younger age than you did. So anyway, glad to have you. Ms. Baker is right here. Y'all go to jail, or criminal defense, murder, anything like that, you don't have to go outside now. We got somebody inside.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Francis.
I want to welcome everyone to Toledo Bend. Once again, this is the third time since I've been on the commission. So it's a wonderful place. And I want to thank Georgia Craven, and I'd ask Georgia to come up and say a couple of words. Georgia's the Executive Director of Sabine Parish Tourist Commission, and she and her group provided a wonderful hors d'oeuvres we had last night, and cocktails also. So, there are a few big heads here because they had too many cocktails this morning. And before she speaks, let me just say, Commissioner Campbell and I have had the pleasure of serving all the Louisiana side of the Toledo Bend Reservoir, and because of reapportionment, he asked me to give him some Sabine Parish votes, so he now has all of Sabine Parish, so he's got a little larger piece of the lake than I have now, but we still both love the lake. And George, I would like to just ask you to give us a couple of words tell us about this lake and the economy here and what's going on in your job.
Well, good morning, everyone. Like Hunter, I'm not really great at public speaking, don't like it very much, but I appreciate Mr. Francis giving me an opportunity to speak with you guys this morning. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Thank you for the great work that you guys are doing, not just for Toledo Bend, for the entire state. And I want to welcome you here. Toledo Bend is one of the most beautiful parts of the state, in my opinion. I might be a little biased since I live here, but I think if you've been here before or you were fortunate enough to attend the reception last night, which I hope you all enjoyed, you got to see a little bit of the area and the beauty of our beautiful lake. It is a huge lake. It's 186,000 acres, 1,200 miles of shoreline, and it is the key to the economy here in City Parish, along with the utility that's generated here. So again, the work that you guys are doing is key, and I thank you for being here. Many of you, in talking to you last night, I found had not been here before. So whether you're from the southern part of the state or like Joe, just an hour away, who had not been here, I encourage you, I hope your schedule allows you some time to explore a wonderful part of our state. If it doesn't, please grab the people that you love and come back. Come and visit our museums. We have Fort Jessup here, and you can learn about the rich culture and history that we have here in this region that we call no man's land. You've seen the lake and the beauty that we have. You know, enjoy a fishing trip. If we have any fishermen, do many guys out there that are women that like to fish? This is one of the best bass fishing lakes in the country. So whether you enjoy fishing or if you don't know how to fish, you know, we have some of the best guides here. They're happy to take you out on the lake. You can rent a pontoon boat and go out on the lake here. We have beautiful state parks that you can hunt in, hike in, RV and camp in. So there's so much to do here. There's richness in nature and culture and art. So I encourage you to take some time, come back, visit with us, enjoy this part of the state. And welcome. I wish you Godspeed and wisdom as you do your work here. So thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. And just to remind everyone that, you know, the carbon footprint's the big deal in the news every day now. And we have a large generator at the end of Toledo Bend at the dam. It's about 60 megawatts, and it's operated and supervised by the Sabine River Authority. And Warren Founds is he's the head guy that kind of keeps things on the track. Warren, stand up and just give us a wave. Warren, thank you for what you do. Let me, while I've got the mic, let me ask Brandon Fry. I'd like to get an update, Brandon, on the our RDOF funds that are coming into Louisiana. That what we'll have a you know, a part of a play there, and also at the next meeting, I'd like to have a report from all those folks who are involved with that. Would you give us a brief rundown
Sure.
on RDOF?
Briefly, you know, there was quite a bit of federal dollars that were available through RDOF to expand broadband, and we certified a number of carriers as eligible to receive that funding. I know you've all discussed with them. Commissioner Campbell, I've had a lot of meetings with them too. In fact, we've got one on the agenda today that somewhat touches on it, but it's not clear how many or how much of the dollars are actually flowing through to the companies yet, where they are in the build out. So I think that would be helpful to hear from them. And somewhat connected to that too, the Gumbo program, which was a state program, I think is also close to awarding its recipient. So we may want to also reach out to Vinith from the broadband office as well to give an update on kind of where that is, because I think it all plays together.
Now, I'm not sure what companies have received funding. I don't know if we'll make that announcement here, if they're going to all get the message.
We can make sure we reach out to them, absolutely.
And
yes.
I think it's proper for the Public Service Commission to have a report on where's that money at today, and at the May meeting, to give us a report on where we're going. We've all of us who represent you know, the rural areas, so we get those questions every time we turn around. That what's going on? When are we going to have our internet? So we'll give them a little better answer. They tune in on our May meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Francis. Commissioner Campbell?
Brandon, I want to sure that you invite Mr. Denault to be here.
He is scheduled here.
That's good, because, you know, last time he couldn't make it.
Correct.
We put it off. I got some real important questions I want to ask him. And so make sure that he comes
And
next
that's,
time.
I'll look out for the energy folks, but it's my understanding, yes, we'll get the thumbs up. He will be in Baton Rouge in May.
He's the the chairman of Energy, and we want to talk, I want to talk to him about some things that I'm disturbed about. Thank you.
And before we actually start, can we get a clarification, if you don't mind me asking, the June meeting? Do you have a date on the June meeting?
Yes, we have had, there's a conflict, and I think we've talked to most of y'all, but to move it potentially June 17th, which is a Friday. I think that's going to be the week of CROOK, but after CROOK, there's a lot of other stuff at the end of the month that's come up, so 17th.
Then, okay, we'll make the formal announcement in
Yes.
just a few days or a day or two.
Yes,
So
yes.
everybody look forward to paying attention to any changes on that in the next few days. Just bring it to your attention before we, June will be here before we realize it. All right. Anyone else before we start? All right, let's get started with our docket.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have 12 agenda items today and just went over all of the announcements. So we're moving to exhibit number 2, which is docket number T36184. This is a Louisiana Public Service Commission versus Supermovers on an alleged violation of Louisiana Revised Statute 45161 through 180.1 by operating interstate without LPSC authority, by engaging in activities related to moving household goods prior to complying with the requirements of Revised Statute 45164E and General Order dated March 16, 2021, for failure to comply with the requirements of General Order dated April 3, 2008 as amended, and contempt of Commission Order number T34258. This is a discussion and possible vote on an ALJ recommendation. In this proceeding, Commission staff alleged that Supermovers violated Louisiana Revised Statutes, Commission General Orders, and was in contempt of Order Number T34258 by advertising as and conducting household goods moves without the Commission's authority, and by failing to pay a citation fee ordered in Order Number T34258. According to the testimony of Transportation Administrator Tammy Burrell and Enforcement Agent Dorinda Jeter, on October 23, 2021, Supermovers performed a household goods move between West Monroe, Louisiana, and Bossier City, Louisiana, on behalf of the complainant. The Commission staff recommended that Supermovers be ordered to refund the complaint the full amount that she paid for the move on the grounds that the carrier should not benefit from providing services it had no authority to provide. The Commission's orders governing household goods carriers have no provisions allowing the Commission to order a refund to customers. Therefore, the administrative law judge concluded that ordering Supermovers to issue a refund to the complainant was not appropriate in this case. Based on the evidence and testimony presented at the hearing, the ALJ recommended that 1. Supermovers be found guilty of violating the Commission's General Order dated March 16, 2021 and the Louisiana Revised Statute 45164E by engaging in activities related to moving household goods prior to complying with the requirements of the statutes and Commission's General Order. 2, that Supermovers be found guilty of violating the Commission's General Order dated April 3, 2008 by failing to include a Louisiana Public Service Commission certificate number in all advertising. 3, that a fine of $25 and a citation fee of $25 be imposed upon Supermovers for its violation of Louisiana Revised Statute 4564E1 and Commission General Order dated March 16, 2021, and Commission's General Order dated April 3, 2008, and that those amounts be paid to the Commission in certified funds within 30 days of issuance of an order. And 4, that Supermovers be found in contempt of Commission Order Number T34258, and that a fine of $2,000 is hereby imposed on Supermovers, and that this amount must be paid to the Commission in certified funds within 30 days of the date of the issuance of this order.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Hold up.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Campbell?
I'm sorry. This is in my area, and
Grab your mic, Commissioner.
well, let me ask you about this deal. You charged them $2,500 fine plus a $2,000 another deal for contempt,
Yes, sir.
$4,500?
That is what the staff recommended and the ALJ agreed.
Yeah, I don't agree. That's $4,500. You know account? You know about this?
I know a little bit. I know Ms. Burrow.
Who
is
handled
here.
it? Who handled this deal?
Good morning, Commissioner. Tammy Burrell on behalf of Commission staff. So it was myself and our new staff attorney, Tanika Starks, that handled this case.
Tell me about it. The fellow moved somebody from Monroe to Bossier City, and he didn't have license, or what was the deal?
That's correct, Commissioner. He did not have authority to transport household goods for consumers in Louisiana.
And so, and they complained that he moved the house.
Her complaint initially was that the mover came in and they quoted her one price, they moved her goods and did a lot of damage to her goods.
Okay.
And they came to us and filed the complaint. We investigated. The company did not have authority to move household goods in the state. So that's when we proceeded to the citation. This was the second offense of super movers. It's not their
Okay.
first. It is their second.
Yeah. Well, did these people have any authority with us at all?
No, sir.
Okay.
The owner of the company at one time did have 3 previous moving companies that he canceled, and he
Okay.
did not come back and get authority again.
Okay, I understand. $4,500 a lot of money. I understand, no problem.
Ms. Burrow, who's ALJ on this job?
Judge Giat.
Say again?
Judge Giat.
Okay. And these charges, these fines, they're pretty well, that's not the first time we've done this to someone when you came up with these figures.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
I'll second Mr. Scometta's motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Scrumetta, a second by Commissioner Green. Any opposition? Hearing none, the order passes. Next one, please.
Exhibit number 3 is docket number T36197. It's the Commission versus Southern Soil Environmental, and it's an alleged violation of revised statute 45-161 through 180.1 by operating beyond the scope of authority in common carrier certificate number 8120 on 95 counts occurring on or about February 3rd, 2020 through February 10th, 2020. It's a discussion and possible vote pursuant to Rule 57 on affidavit and stipulation executed by the carrier. This is a proposed settlement between Southern Soil and the Commission staff for Southern Soil's violation of the Commission's rules and regulations relative to operating within the scope of its authority in Common Carrier Certificate Number 8120. As a result of manifest audits submitted to staff by the Office of Conservation of the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, staff issued a citation to Southern Soil alleging that the carrier had violated revised statutes by operating beyond the scope of its authority on 95 counts occurring on or about February 3rd, 2020 and through February 10th of 2020. In response to the citation, the President of Southern Soil signed an affidavit and stipulation admitting to violating the revised statutes by operating beyond the scope of its authority. In the affidavit and stipulation, the President agreed to the imposition of fine of $25,000 with conditions summarized as follows. The Southern Soils has to obtain a common carrier certificate from the Commission to transport non-hazardous oil field waste for disposal intrastate. That the company needs to implement changes to the corporate training policy to include an orientation on Commission-related statutes, rules, and orders under its employment and therefore on an annual basis. And that the company needs to remit all payments due and submit this executed affidavit and stipulation with the payment and citation fee by April 13th, 2020. Additionally, the President agreed that the affidavit and stipulation is to be a global settlement between Commission staff and Southern Soil on any of all violations of transporting non-hazardous oil field waste without authority occurring before November 24th, 2021. Staff recommends that the Commission, 1, exercise its original and primary jurisdiction under Rule 57 to consider the affidavit and stipulation, and 2, accept the affidavit and stipulation executed on April 11th, 2022 for fines and fees totaling $25,025.
A motion to take the item up under item 57.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Scrumetta to take the item up on Rule 57. Let me ask Commissioner Campbell, you have a
I'll make a motion to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
move, Commissioner Campbell, second by Commissioner Francis, that we accept the recommendation. Any opposition? Next item, please.
Exhibit number 4 is docket number R34758. This is the Commission's timely disclosure of facts and notices regarding such matters as MaxGen alerts to Commission and Commissioners and related matters. It's a discussion and possible vote on staff recommendation associated with the investigation into transmission and generation issues occurring during the February 2021 winter storm. This was Exhibit 17 on January 25th, 2022 B&E, and Mr. Zimmering, I believe, is going to give the report.
Good morning, Commissioners. Paul Zimmering, on behalf of the Commission staff. This matter came before the Commission several months ago, excuse me, and about a 150-page report was submitted to the Commission regarding the results of the investigation into the winter storms in February 2021. There were a series of recommendations that were attached that the staff had come up with. I believe it was Commissioner Green who recommended that that the Commission take no action at the January meeting. Those recommendations simply be passed by all of the interveners in the case and see if there were objections or comments. There were 2 opportunities for comments by the interveners. Staff took into consideration what they said, modified some of the recommendations, and these recommendations are sent for you now for adoption.
And I can summarize the recommendations if that would be helpful. Staff's recommendations were filed into the docket on April 18th, 2022, which are summarized as follows. The Commission should formally adopt communication protocols to be effective during and after the declaration of emergency events requiring SPP and Commission jurisdictional utilities, including cooperatives, to timely communicate information regarding emergency event. IPPs, merchant generators, co-generators, power districts, and municipalities that own generation shall be requested to provide similar information. 2, all LPSC jurisdictional electric utilities should submit winterization reports to the Commission on all current and ongoing winterization efforts to their generation fleets, transmission systems, and/or distribution networks by August 1st of 2022 and annually thereafter. And 3, that the Commission and staff should continue to participate in the evaluation of transmission solutions to expand the RDT north-south transmission constraint. And staff recommends that the Commission accept staff's recommendation filed in the record on April 18th, 2022. And I have a motion by Commissioner Green. Would you like me to read that?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Green moves to adopt staff's recommendations with the technical cleanup amendments as follows. 1, the last sentence of the first partial paragraph on page 23 of the original recommendation should be deleted and replaced with the following. This information may be designated by the producing party as confidential information and provided on a confidential basis pursuant to Commission Rule 12.1 if such confidential treatment is warranted. 2, immediately after that sentence, the following sentence shall be inserted as a separate paragraph. To the extent non-jurisdictional IPPs, merchant generators, co-generators, power districts, and municipalities that own generation are referenced in the information reporting provisions herein, such provisions are intended as voluntary and are not a mandate.
Yes, thank you. That's my motion with the amendment.
I'll second. So we have a motion by Commissioner Green, second by the chair. Any position? Hearing none, it passes.
Thank you for all y'all's work on that. That's hopefully we would have different mistakes next time, but we won't have the same ones.
That's the goal, Commissioner. Thank you.
Exhibit number 5 is docket number R36227. It's the Commission's assessment of Louisiana's current electric utility infrastructure for resilience and hardening of future storm events. It's a discussion and possible vote to hire engineering consultant, and this was Exhibit 4 on last month's agenda. This docket was initiated by a Commission directive to assess current electric utility infrastructure in Louisiana and propose a plan of resiliency and hardening for Louisiana's electric grid. At the March B&E, the Commission directed staff to issue the RFP seeking an engineering consultant. Based upon this directive, staff issued RFP 22-2 revised on April 4th seeking qualified consultants, and we received 3 qualifying bids. The first is from Critical Technologies Consulting of $276,430 in fees, and $14,000 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $290,430. The second is from CSRS of $318,950 in fees and $12,000 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $330,950. And the third is from Linfield Hunter Nunez of $498,740 in fees and $0 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed $498,740. And staff makes no recommendation as all three bidders are qualified.
Move to accept the bid of CTC for $290,403.
I want to make a substitute motion to, is it B or number 2? Which one is it?
Middle bid.
B?
Yes.
That we accept the bid number B of, what, 300,000?
CSRS.
CSRS, what, how much money?
For
It's not in my
CSRS?
book.
Oh, I apologize. CSRS for $318,950 in fees and $12,000 in expenses for a total budget not to exceed of $330,950.
That's the motion.
Second it.
Okay. Now, Commissioner Scudder, you made a motion, all right?
I did for the low bid of CTC for $290,430.
Do I hear a second? Okay. All right, so no second on low bid. Do we have a substitute motion or a second bid?
Second bid.
The first motion didn't have a second,
Okay.
so that fails. So rather than a substitute
Make sure I'm doing
motion,
it
this will
right.
just be another motion.
Okay, so who's made the motion? Commissioner Campbell?
Commissioner Campbell.
Commissioner Campbell moved for B or CSRS?
Correct.
And was that seconded?
I second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Green. Any opposition?
Yes.
Roll call.
We get any discussion there?
We can, sure.
Huh?
Yeah, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote, I'm gonna support my Commissioner friend Campbell, but I want to make a note that he's usually put a low bid. He's not doing low bid on this one, but I'm not either. We're together on that one. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'd like to make a comment too. That's, an incredible show of cooperation that we welcome here at the commission as often as possible. Likewise, the comment I would like to make, if you don't mind me adding, is that this is something very new and interesting. So I just want to make sure we're doing it the right way and for the right reasons. So at this point, we're doing roll call vote.
Hey, what?
Wait.
Comment too.
Okay.
I do too.
Commissioner Campbell, go right ahead.
How much money difference is it? Just,
By the way, Commissioner Campbell doesn't have this in his notes. Can somebody get him a sheet?
So anyway,
All right, the next.
I don't have it in my notes either.
no, how much is the difference between the low and this?
Okay, that's
$40,000.
It's about $40,000.
So that's what I was trying to say, it's $40,000. I think this company's more qualified.
Can you pull your mic closer, please, Commissioner?
The only difference is $40,000, which is a lot of money, I know that. But this is a big job, and I think the other people are more qualified, so that's why I'm choosing this company.
Commissioner Scametta?
Yeah. I've made some
And
written comments.
your mic.
Sorry, let me pull it a little closer. Hang on a
Thank you.
second. How's now? Is that better? Is that okay? All right. I made written comments at the last meeting, and I'm going to go so resubmit them instead of going through them again. Also, giving them the opportunity, the CSRS, to resubmit their bid when they overbid this bid last month by nearly $1 million more than they did now, I think is just wrong. Secondly, CTC currently does work for a number of other state public service commissions where CSRS does not. And the experience lies with CTC as the low bidder. They work with, I believe, the state of Mississippi as well as other commissions that we already know. So I do think that the vast layer of experience right at the apple to allow someone to rid an issue in order for them to try to come closer into a sort of area acceptance potential for getting their getting their contract. So for that reasons, I'm sticking with my general feeling about going with the low bid.
Thank you, Commissioner Scrumetta. Anyone else? Okay.
Roll call.
Yeah, we haven't roll call yet. Can we start over? Commissioner Francis.
I'm voting in favor of
So the,
Mr. Campbell.
Commissioner Francis voting yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Scrumetta.
No.
Chips yes. Thank you. Next item, please.
Exhibit number 6 is docket number S35745. It's Northeast Louisiana Power Cooperative and Volt Broadband's petition for a letter of non-opposition to borrow funds to construct broadband system. It's a discussion, possible vote on staff's report and recommendation. On October 1st of 2020, Northeast filed a petition for approval of a letter of non-opposition from the Commission allowing NELCO to issue debt to finance a 3-year build-out of a fiber-to-the-home and fixed wireless application broadband infrastructure with an anticipated cost of $53.6 million. Staff conducted a complete review of NELCO's initial request and on October 13, 2020, filed its report and recommendation recommending to the Commission that NELCO be granted the letter of non-opposition subject to conditions. The matter was considered by the Commission at its October 13, 2020 business and executive session, and order number S35745 reflects the Commission's vote granting this initial request. On February 1st of 2022, NELCO and Volt, a newly formed subsidiary of NELCO, filed a approval of a letter of non-opposition to borrow funds to construct the broadband system, requesting modification to the terms of order number S35745. Notice of the petition was published in the Commission's official bulletin, and there were no interventions received. The present request reflects material change in circumstances since issuing order S35745. NELCO won only a small percentage of the territory they intended to serve in the RDOF auction, and in response, NELCO is requesting to partner with Connexon Connect, the winner of the remaining blocks in NELCO's territory. Connexon has offered to build a fully fiber-to-the-home broadband system for a cost of $45 million. The initial request, as approved, anticipated a cost of $53 million to build a combination of fiber-to-the-home and fixed wireless application system. In addition to providing a more secure system at a lower price point, Connexon would provide back-office services to Volt, as well as regulatory and tax compliance services for a period of 10 years at no additional cost. Connexon has also proposed a buyback option where Volt could sell the broadband system assets to Connexon at the cost of construction minus federal funds secured should Volt so choose. The option to sell Connexon would be valid for 90 days prior to the completion of the construction. As customers we brought online during the construction phase, Volt should have a reasonable understanding of the take rate and the projected number of customers prior to the 90-day period. In addition, Connexon proposes to lease 2 strands of fiber cable from Volt for a period of 8 years in order to serve its own customers outside of NELCO's service territory, producing additional guaranteed revenues for Volt. Because of the creation of Volt and the adoption of the infrastructure build-out plans, CoBank, which is NELCO and Volt's lender, has modified the borrowing arrangement initially anticipated and approved. And according to the new arrangement, Volt would be the borrower and therefore primarily liable for the construction loan and operation credit from CoBank. NELCO will be the guarantor and therefore indirectly liable on such instruments. This represents a change from the initial request wherein NELCO was the borrower and primary liable. Staff recommends that the Commission grant NELCO's petition and expresses non-opposition to the proposed financing and securitization subject to the conditions set forth in staff's report and recommendation, which was filed on April 25th, 2022.
This is, maybe it's a little bit, say, history being made, but it is a little
Commissioner,
bit about,
your mic, please.
okay.
Thank you.
This is the first co-op in the state of Louisiana to get into broadband business. I have really gone over these papers and met with people and met and double-checked and done everything I can do to talk to these people. This is Northeast Rural Electric Co-op up in Winsboro. They've got about 5 parishes in the northeast part. They're working together with Connexon. I've checked out Connexon. Luke's checked them out. Yesterday we had a meeting in Shreveport in my office, and Mr. Post, you might remember, Mr. Post was the head of CenturyLink, the chairman of the board in Louisiana, in the United States. He was somewhat skeptical of this arrangement. I asked him for a favor, since business. He knew more about the broadband business than anybody that I knew of. He had to run $1 billion business up there. He called several of these co-ops where they have this operation going, and much to his surprise, he at first told me it wasn't going to work, fiber to the home. He called me back. Now, this is the chairman of the board of CenturyLink in the United States. He calls me back, and he lives up in Union Parish. He said, I was wrong. This deal's going to work. So that helped me a lot. Luke did a good job. The head of the Northeast Co-op, he's not here today, huh? Come on up here, Jeff.
And Luke, just introduce yourself, please, and Jeff, introduce yourself, please, on the record.
I didn't see you back there, I'm sorry. Jeff Churchwell is the director, manager co-op in Northeast. Saying this, I've spent a lot of time on this, and we'll work with Luke very, very closely. I'll work with Catherine King very closely because she represents Connexon. At first, I was very, very skeptical, but I have done a lot of work. My office has. I've been in contact with a lot of people, and the icing on the cake was I asked the man who lives in Thornville, who was the chairman of the board of CenturyLink, CenturyTel, in the United States, to come look at this. And at first, he was very skeptical. And then he became, he said it'll work. So I'm satisfied that this deal we've had with Northeast will work. I'm for this. We're all for getting rural electric, broadband in the rural areas of Louisiana. Everybody up here is for this. I think this is the first co-op to do it. I think co-ops are a great place to start because they already have lines to every home, and they're working with them. And the good thing about this, they're going to put fiber to the home for about $59 a month. Yes, sir. $59, and that's what we all talked about. How do you get this where people can afford it? If you want the Cadillac kind, it costs a little bit more. But so anyway, I'm all for this. I talked to Brandon about it. We talked about it. I think these people are for real, and I think that Claiborne Electric will be next, and I hope that Concordia Electric down at Jonesville will be the next. I think this is the way for the co-ops to go. And I think these people that got all the RDOF funds, these are people who got the funds. They have millions of dollars from the federal government. And my due diligence, if you to borrow the word, not being but what our staff could do and what I've done and ask all the hard questions I can ask, I think this is the real deal. Luke, was there a lawyer? You go ahead and explain the situation and tell them where we are.
Sure thing. Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Chairman Boissier, good morning. My name is Luke Piontek. I represent Northeast Louisiana Power Co-op. With me today is Jeff Churchwell, General Manager of Northeast. I also represent Broadband, who's the Wholly Opportunity Fund auction that the FCC had. We bid into that. We did not win as much as we had hoped. We won about $1.2 million in the RDOF auction. Connexon won a lot of the census block groups in our territory. They won a bunch of money.
How much did they win?
They won statewide about $108 million. Okay. How much of that's in our territory, I'm not sure. But they bid a lot of areas in North Louisiana. They won 108. And Commissioner Francis, to answer your question, we started receiving the RDOF funds in January. So they give it out at equal amounts every month for 10 years. So 1.2 million over 10 years. We're getting about 10,000 a month. We started getting that in January, about 4 payments so far. And we're putting that to use with make-ready engineering, make-ready construction, stuff like that, which is going on right now. We're studying the poles, whether we need new poles, whether we need to rearrange attachments, that kind of thing. We're doing that right now. So it's in design right now. The reason we filed this notice filing is because the original approval was for a $54 million system that we were going to build with National Rural Telecommunications Cooperative, and it's going to take 5 years, and had some other features that have changed now, because once we got through the auction, we had to decide, well, we only won 1.2 million. Are we still going to do this? Is this still a good idea? So we scrubbed it down with NRTC. We had Mears Group come to us, which is a big company that builds utility systems all over the country. They proposed to build it for us, and then Conexon also came to us, proposed to build it. So we had 3 people basically competing to build the system for us. So we made each one of them sharp pencils and sharpen their pencils and sharpen their pencils. And Conexon came up with just the best deal, in our opinion. They've lowered it from $54 million, that was NRTC's estimate. Conexon's going to build it turnkey, not to exceed $45 million. So if it goes over $45 million, that's on them, not on us. They're going to build it in 2 years, not 5. And the reason for that speed is because they have a unique means of designing a system. They call it distributed tap architecture. Don't ask me what that means technically, but it's a design where they can design it much faster than other companies that build systems. So their design is much more advanced. They're going to put it to make available to every one of Northeast members, 11,500 members, in 2 years. So we'll be done. We expect to break ground next month or June.
Next month is when we expect to break ground.
So it's going to be done in about 2 years from next month. We're going to start hooking up customers as we construct. We're not going to build the whole thing and then sign up the first customer. We're going to hook up people as we build it out. After 2 years, when the construction's complete, this is another important feature of this new deal, is that we have a buyback option from Conexon. Within 90 days after construction is complete, Volt and Northeast can say, we don't want this anymore. Conexon, buy it from us, and they'll pay us the full construction cost and buy the system from us.
And I've checked their credit out. Brandon and I've checked their credit. They can pay their bills.
Yeah, and one of the things that they can do to fund that is some of the RDOF funding, because we'll be supplying areas that they want in RDOF, and they can tell the FCC, we're partnering with Northeast and Volt, so we're serving this area that we won in the auction, so that kind of frees up some money for them to build elsewhere and or to buy the system back from us after 2 years. So we agree, we think they're financially sound and able to do that. It leverages out almost as much risk as you can on this deal, because if we don't like it, after 2 years, we'll know what our take rate will look like. We'll have a good idea at the end of 2 years, because we'll sign up people as we go. If the take rate's too low, not working, we'll sell to them, and they'll buy it from us, and they'll run it. So those are the main features. Another reason we did this is that about a third of Northeast members are in non-RDOF areas. So if we didn't do this at all and Conexon just built in the areas one, about a third of our members may not get internet because they're in non-RDOF areas. Conexon may get them eventually, but they won't get it anytime soon. And that's a third of our members. So we decided to do this deal with Conexon. They have a bunch of experience in building these systems all over the country. They build, I don't know how many thousands of miles per week for co-ops around the country. Jeff went and visited a couple of co-ops in Mississippi and Missouri where Conexon has built their system, and those co-ops were very pleased with it and pleased with the take rate and the performance of Conexon. So with all that said, these are sort of some material changes from what the commission originally approved. So we filed the notice filing asking you guys to reaffirm that we're still good to go. And our lender, CoBank, wants to loan us the $45 million to build the system. They would like the assurance that everything is still good to go as well. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Schwell, what do you have to say?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for taking this matter up. We've been down a long road. Commissioner, I want to thank you for the due diligence that you've had and your absolute involvement as we've through every step. You know, I told you I was going to keep you informed every step of the way through this, and it's been a good experience and a great exercise, because we have, as Luke said, our first out-of-the-box quote from NRTC when we were looking at a full fiber deployment was $98 million, and Luke, when his high-pitched squeal stopped, because we were going to have to come to you guys for that, we said to them, we've got to work this thing down. It's got to be something that's manageable. But when I approached our board, I have two of my board members here with me today, my president and vice president. You know, it's ultimately their decision. General managers will chase the ball as far as they throw it, but they had to choose to throw the ball on this, and I take my hat off to them, because we look at Northeast Louisiana as
as a dying area of our state. We have a lot of good things, just like Toledo Bend. We've got a lot of good things to offer in Northeast Louisiana too. But the biggest thing we have missing, especially in the rural area, is the ability to be connected to the world. And we're excited about the opportunity to provide this service to our membership in North Louisiana Power Co-op. You know what, I was surprised, and I've been down this road before. You think your take rate can be 60%. The Post yesterday, I asked him, I thought that was ambitious, you know, and I asked him, the CenterPoint man, I said, what do you think, 60%? He said, I think it's intolerable. And that's what we want to do. And we are making history with this. This is the first time this has happened in Louisiana. Maybe the other co-ops, that I'm sure you'll help them if they're interested. I think this is the way to go. We spent a lot of time on it. Luke's done a great job. You've done a great job. You put it all out on the table. This is, as Jeffro would say, this is high ciphering here. This is not something everybody just gets walking down the street. You had to have a lot of help to explain it to a lot of people. And I've been very dubious of all this stuff from the very get-go. But I'm convinced today this is the right thing to do. And I hope the other co-ops in Louisiana will look at y'all's example, and I hope it works, because we all hope people in rural Louisiana can be connected. And especially after this COVID deal, we all got a lesson there that you have to. Kids are home, businesses are shut down. This is like the telephone used to be in the 20s or 30s. Other than when I got phones at Mink, Louisiana, in 2020, they never had a phone. Anyway, so I would like to make a move that we accept the recommendation of the commission, the staff, and I'm glad to help you, Luke. Again, I want to tell you what a fine job I think you did. You answered all my questions. I'd call him up and say, one thing I said, look, let's make sure this damn company can pay the bills. You say they can buy it, y'all go broke, what's the deal? I don't want to hear about another Cajun. And
Cajun Electric.
Cajun Electric, right. You know how when they went broke and they held the government $4 billion, I've been down that nightmare. But anyway, I've been assured that these people can pay the money. Plus they got all the RDOF funds, $100 million, which helps. But anyway, I'd like to make a motion. We staff recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have Commissioner Campbell, your comment complete?
Yeah.
All right, next we have Commissioner Scrumetta.
In general, and I had a conversation with you two gentlemen, you know, I support the general concept of this, but I got some concerns, and maybe it's not going to fall on you, but the staff ought to be listening to this about what we ought to be looking down the road, since we're going to be looking at other people. Number one, my major concern about any of this is risk. It's not your risk, it's the risk for the ratepayers, okay? And number one is, Northeast Co-op is the ultimate guarantor of this money, okay? Which means your ratepayers are the ultimate guarantor. So if Connexco or whatever they are fail to do anything, your ratepayers are the ultimate guarantor of this money. I mean, that's just the way it is. They got an opportunity to buy it from you, this other company, but they can also choose not to buy it from you. Is that correct?
No, Commissioner.
So they're forced to buy it from you?
It's at our discretion. They either have to buy it or lease it from us for an equivalent amount.
Okay,
That's our
well,
choice.
that's fine. The other question is, we had the discussion about, and this is for staff to look at, is that you've got the potential of people going to take service, right? But right now, no one has looked at pre-contracting as a element of, you know, guaranteeing so much service to be taken, right? So right now it's about, you know, people are saying, oh, we want it. And I know they want it, but I think that as we look further down the road with other folks, and I think as you look down, you may need to start doing this, but contracts pledge, contracts of service, that pre-contracting to say when it comes, we will start paying you the $59 a month and we will start doing this, I think is an important element for giving security to the members of the co-op that there's going to be the revenue stream to take care of this. Another element of this, when we're talking about y'all doing a $45 million contract, is this something that should be limited to a board action, or should this be a required confirmation vote of the members? Because for me, I believe the members are de facto shareholders, okay? And that the members should have a say-so in something that is a magnitude purchase. They don't have to come and vote when you buy a new truck or stuff like that. We understand that. But when you're talking about stepping into the tens of millions of dollars, should there be a call for a confirmation vote of the board actions by the members of the co-op, so then later on, there's not any hue and cry from the members that the board did something they shouldn't have done, and the members confirmed the actions of the board. And so that should be something that should be looked at, even for yourself, but for the future, that we should look at having a requirement vote for the members to ensure that this is actually what they want. Because we know what we think they want, but it's much easier to find what the members really want when the members vote, okay? The other thing is, what's going to happen? Is this a bid to provide service, or is this a bid to find a way for Northeast to make money, right, through its subsidiary? And what happens to the money it makes as a subsidiary? Does it make a profit? Does that profit transfer back to the ratepayers? Do they get a benefit on reduction of their electricity rates? And that comes into the next layer, which is sort of this board confusion element. We had a discussion about you'll have some members of an independent board, but you'll have some members of the common board. I think it's like 4 members from your Northeast board will be members of this new company board. And so what we want to make sure is that there's no board issue of paying board members more to be on the communications company board and shift revenue, which we've seen in some other companies. And we want to make sure we avoid that type of thing, where we provide the greatest value of benefits actually go back to the ultimate guarantor, which are the ratepayers of Northeast. So if there's value coming back, we want to make sure that the bills are paid, but anything above the bills being paid ought to be going back to Northeast Co-op, and you know, that money should go back to buffer and reduce the rates of electricity. Because if something went bad the other way, they sure would have to have their rates increased to cover the losses associated. So they should get, if the pendulum swings both ways, and so that should be there. And I think that's really where I am on this. I think that, you know, unfortunately, the first guy out the gates to be the experiment. I certainly think we need to expand broadband services. You said you're going to do VoIP-based telephone services, which is great. But ultimately, it comes back to my first statement, which is risk. And like Commissioner Campbell said, nobody wants to see another, you know, Cajun failure. And what I want to make sure is, you know, your contract with ConnectCon is based on the contract on the other side, on their patrol. Because just because they have to lease it from you or buy it from you, if they're not in a condition or something goes wrong and they can't do it, you could ultimately still be holding the bag, right? So then you're out looking for another suitor, right? So what we're trying to do is, and I think you can temper that by having a security of know how many people are going to take the service. So that really comes down into this sort of pre-commitment of knowing what you're going to be able to do. And I'm reluctant, but I'm going to vote for this simply because I want to see the services provided. But what I want to see is these things I've been talking about with the staff listening to this as we move forward with other co-ops and how they do this, to ultimately remember that the co-ops are a business of selling electricity, and there's a certain sort of lure of other potential, but that money that's out there coming from that ultimately has to find a way back to temper the cost of electricity, because that's where costs are going to rise and communication costs not. So we want to see where that really ends up, and we want to look at that over the years as it progresses to see how that potential value comes back and helps the ratepayers. So I'll be supporting it, but I do want to see how you can take from what I've told you, and it's not really anything you haven't heard me tell you before, but I would like to see how we move forward from that to secure those, belt and suspenders approach to protect ratepayers and still get you what you want. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll do all we can to address your concerns and work with you on this.
Thank you.
Well, do you want to cover, we did cover some of those, and
Yeah.
and we're not, I mean, we're, obviously, like you said, Commissioner, we are the guinea pig, and I guess that's sometimes good and sometimes bad. We have covered some of the issues that the risk piece. We think that the buyback agreement is, Luke did a great job making sure that it's as ironclad as a lawyer to, against another lawyer. So that mitigates the risk piece. The other issue that you brought up was, a vote of the membership. One of the things I'm going to give credit to Commissioner Campbell for, and this was very early on, he said, boy, you go out there and make sure they want to do this. You need to do a survey. So we hired a very reputable gentleman out of Florida. He did a survey of our membership, which was 400 responses, and it came back overwhelming. 87% said that they would choose service if provided from the co-op versus a competing provider. But we, going to my board and the board members that now serve as managers on the Broadband group, they wanted to know even further. We said we need to know, our membership needs to know. We have a 5% quorum requirement in our co-op. That represents about 590 people. We sent out ballots to all 11,000 residential members, 11,500. We got almost 2,900 responses back. 96% voted in favor, and we spelled it out. Now, it was 4 simple questions. Do you want us to get into this? Are you for us borrowing $54 million? And we had 6 times the number of requirement that would meet a quorum to respond. And so we did that. I'm not saying it's the roadmap as other co-ops may or may not choose to do this, but I think we've laid the groundwork for how you can approach it. I mean, obviously there's more than one way to skin a cat, but this is how we chose to skin this cat. The other side on the profit, it is a for-profit. We do intend to, within the guise of the rules of nonprofits, if we can get 15%, and we can draw that in against our revenue on the cooperative side, it will offset. It will go to pay capital credits back, go to improve life for the co-op members. So ultimately, to keep our rates as low as they are each and every month, and we're very proud of how low our rates are to our members now. So I hope that addresses some of the issues that you have, and I do appreciate your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Francis.
Mr. Churchwell, is your co-op's operated out of Winsboro, as I know?
Yes, sir, Winsboro, Louisiana.
One of the things that's come up in the past was compensation for board members on co-ops. Will your board members get an increased compensation for taking on this extra work?
The board members that serve on the Volt board do receive a compensation for that, and the reason that is, Commissioner, is because we're going to have at-large board members, and so in order to get qualified board members, we felt like it was important to pay a small amount. We talked about that with Commissioner Campbell. He He informed my board president, Weldon Fitch. He said, I know you got to pay him something to get him there. He said, just don't pay him too much. So it's a minimal amount of money that they receive to be on that board.
All right, so will you have a full-blown election for those board members for this?
Absolutely. Those board members would go through the same election. If they're voted off on the Northeast Louisiana Co-op board, then those would be they would be removed from that automatic seat.
All right, one brief final. Most of your lines will be hung on the poles, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there a compensation? Will they be paid? Will the electric co-op be paid for rent on the pole attachments?
Yes, sir, absolutely. We're gonna treat Volt Broadband, even though it's our wholly owned subsidiary, just like we would any other ISP that would come to us. So we're gonna charge a pole attachment fee. Northeast will charge its subsidiary.
Because those poles belong to the co-op members.
Yes, sir.
This is a revenue that goes back to, from broadband back to the electricity side of the business. And we want to be sure that in other co-ops as well as yours that we should have a standard pole attachment cost and not be playing with the books on, well, we're going to give a little fair deal here or there for some special reason, because this is revenue back to the ratepayers of the electricity because of what we're doing with broadband. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let the Commissioner Campbell respond.
I want all y'all to hear this. This is good medicine for all you utility promoters. By the way, their rate this month is 8.8 cents per kilowatt hour. And so your boys' rates are not real close to that. Some of them are 12 cents per kilowatt hour, you know? So they're about 4 cents cheaper than you guys. So think about that. They're running a real clean shop, and I appreciate you keeping the rates down. Another factor that we ought to realize, and we're right here in North Louisiana. Central and North Louisiana, only 3 parishes out of 30-something parishes up here, half the state, didn't lose population last year. This parish here lost population. Caddo Parish lost population. Caldwell, everybody's losing population in North Louisiana. We don't have the industry you have in South Louisiana. We're hurting up here, and we need everything possible to help us. So that's why it's so important we have high-speed internet. We need it more than anybody. And they're in the poorest part of the state. And to take it another step, those parishes along the Mississippi River are the poorest in America, poorer than Appalachia. So we're talking about poor parishes, poor people, people needing jobs, and it can't be done because the first thing they do when they come in, where's the high-speed internet? So I'm glad that you're here today. I think you've done a good job. I know the risk is a factor, but what's the greatest risk here today is that you don't get it. That's the biggest risk today, is that you don't get it. And I appreciate the work you did. Again, Luke, you did a great job as a lawyer, answering tough questions. And I promise you, I wasn't easy on these folks because I was very skeptical. But I am satisfied it'll work. I hope it works and goes well, and I hope other co-ops in the state look at this model and you get high-speed internet to your folks all over Southwest Louisiana, all over South Louisiana, everybody, if your board wants to do it. But I appreciate what you've done, and I'd move that we accept staff recommendation.
Churchwell, one last thing. I know a lot of good folks from the Winsboro area. I think poor is a state of mind, okay? And I don't think they think they're poor. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Campbell, and I believe there was a second by Commissioner Green.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the commissioners for weighing in on this issue so much. I myself have been extremely concerned about how this was going to go. And I do remember not so long ago, we were at this commission examining co-ops, their board practices, their practices towards things such as insurance payments. And much of that stemmed from a co-op, or one of the co-ops, or some of the co-ops considering getting into broadband. Isn't that interesting? And I think a lot of the comments that I heard today, a lot of the questions, a lot of the concerns have stemmed from that original event that brings us here today, where many of those questions have been answered affirmatively and with great details to get the confidence of the commission to move forward, which hadn't happened before, which caused a much uproar and action by the commission to really examine the board process of our co-ops in Louisiana. I, as well as my fellow commissioners, are very concerned about many of those things we discussed today, and many of those things we discussed a couple of years ago when examining the boards of the co-ops. But at this point in time, as we sit here, we have all not only gone through that period, but we've gone through COVID. And for the last several years, if not decades, Commissioner Campbell for sure has been a champion. I know that I've worked extremely hard with him to get broadband in the rural areas of Louisiana, and I couldn't be more supportive of activities to bring broadband to the people of Louisiana who don't have it. Even going back several gubernatorial administrations, we fought to try to get stimulus money and other things into Louisiana, and we didn't get a lot of support. And just to get broadband. And I'm glad Commissioner Campbell brought it up. It's part of what I wanted to say as well, is that because of the COVID outbreak and the shutdown that we've experienced the last few years, if broadband wasn't important before, we realized just how important it is now. As schools were closing, the only way students can get their lessons is by Zoom or computer virtual classrooms, which require internet connections and broadband. In many cases, physical contact has been limited so much that people couldn't walk around and get through grocery stores safely. So things such as delivery and for all it's worth, all these new tech companies and delivery companies like Amazon, even Walmart and so many other stores deliver if you sign up, and you can order your things online. Just highlighting once again how important broadband is to our daily lives. It's not just for surfing or playing games on the internet. It affects our daily lives. Many of us couldn't go to work, but for Zoom calls and other different formats to have virtual meetings. Even at this commission, we had several months of meetings virtually, online, until we had a really weird incident.
We're not talking about that.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that.
I will point out they had good internet service in order to do that.
They didn't live in Northeast Louisiana.
No, they didn't. No, probably not. But I will say this. And we can highlight the daily activities of people. I know how important that is, but we also got to realize that's how people will conduct business from now on. Learning, businesses, hospital, things we find extremely important to the daily life of the now and the future. And so Louisiana can no longer be left behind. The people of Louisiana deserve this. Now, I'm from New Orleans. My district is New Orleans and Baton Rouge. We have broadband in my district. We have thorough coverage. We have competition. We have so much coverage. You can pick one provider or another if you're unhappy. But I recognize that the rest of the state deserves it too. It's an economic tool, an education tool, a health tool. It's a utility. And we need this. So here we are today with all the questions and skepticism we may have had throughout those times. I want to thank Mr. Biontek, as well as, I'm sorry, say your name again from the co-op?
Jeff Churchwell.
Mr. Churchwell, from Northeastern for their work in getting this project done. You are the first, which means I heard the word guinea pig, but in some ways it means you're the best because you've worked to get it done where others have not been as successful. And I don't know if you've given a roadmap, but reached your destination, or you're nearly there, and we're with you. And I hope others, we co-ops or someone else, continue to give us the broadband coverage we need in these rural areas for Louisiana people to be able to enter the 21st century and be able to function in a world that requires broadband and internet service. And some of the risks that I heard, and I share, I really am concerned about those as well. At some point, I believe the legal language has been put in place, be it guinea pig or not. It seems to be, I've been satisfied by the things that I've heard and been told about this company. But at some point, we have to take the move forward in order to try to get this done, either this manner or some other, but we have to try, and I'm willing to take the risks, which I think are minimal because of the guarantees and contracts that I've heard, and the confidence that I have in this group to get it done. And I hope that others will do the same in other areas that are struggling. So I'll say all that to say thank you, and I appreciate you, and you have my confidence and my vote here today.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Once again, somebody read back to me who did the motion.
It's a motion by Commissioner Campbell and a second by Commissioner Green.
Great. So I'll repeat that. Motion moved by Commissioner Campbell, second by Commissioner Green. Any opposition? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Exhibit number 7 is docket number U36121. This is Deepwood Utilities rate application for increase in water and sewer rates in Caddo Parish. It's a discussion and possible vote pursuant to Rule 57 on staff's report and recommendation at the request of Commissioner Campbell. On July 22, 2021, Deep Utilities filed an application with the Commission seeking an increase in its water and sewer rates. Notice that the application was published in the Commission's official bulletin with no interventions received. Deepwoods currently provides water and sewer service to approximately 216 residential customers in Caddo Parish, and in its application indicate that its requested rate increase is necessary as a result of increasing cost of operating expenses, salary, and cash reserve to be able to repair or place any critical infrastructure when needed. And based on the proposed rates in its application, the company seeks a revenue increase of $57,552 per year. Following discovery on the company's application, staff filed its report and recommendation into the record on January 14, 2022, and subsequently filed an amended report on April 26, 2022 to correct an omission of a formula on Schedule A. The major terms of staff's amended report and recommendation are as follows. That the Commission authorize a return over operations and maintenance of 24.59%, and that to achieve that desired return, staff recommends that the Commission approve rates which will generate additional revenues in the amount of $11,772 compared to the 20 test year. Deepwood shall also provide written notice to its customers of the increase in its rates for water and wastewater services no later than 15 days prior to implementing any such rates. Staff recommends that 1, the Commission exercise its original and primary jurisdiction pursuant to Rule 57 to consider this matter, and 2, accept staff's amended report and recommendation filed into the record on April 26, 2022.
11:30.
So this will need 2 votes. The first would be a vote to take the matter up under Rule 57.
Motion to take the matter up under Rule 57.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Francis to
And
take the
I-
item under Rule 57.
And I have a motion by Commissioner Campbell that I can read into the record.
Yes, would you read that, please?
Motion on behalf of Commissioner Campbell says, based on the review of jurisdictional water and wastewater rates in Caddo Parish, which are comparable to Deepwoods, I move to reject the staff recommendation and instead adopt the following rates, which are more in line with the average rate in the area. That the flat rate for the first 2,000 gallons of water be increased to $12, that the per additional 1,000 gallons rate be increased to $2, and the flat rate for wastewater customers be increased to $18.
I'll make that motion, and this woman's been a good operator. He hadn't had a rate increase since 1995.
That's right.
So he does a good job. I have no complaints. So I would move that we accept these rates, and I'll recommend it.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Campbell, second by Commissioner Green. Any opposition? Hearing none, so ordered. Next item.
Exhibit number 8 is docket number U36124. This is CenterPoint Energy Resources doing business as CenterPoint Energy in Texas, application for renewal of a rate stabilization plan rider. It's a discussion and possible vote pursuant to Rule 57 on staff's report and recommendations. This item will also need 2 votes. On July 30th of 2021, CenterPoint Energy Resources Corp. doing business as CenterPoint Energy in Texas filed an application with the Commission for approval of a renewal in its rate stabilization plan rider for a 3-year term. Notice of Intex's application was published in the Commission's official bulletin with no interventions received. Intex's RSP was initially authorized by Commission Order U26720 in subdocket A and has subsequently been amended by Order Numbers U32998 and 3469. The Commission's most recent earnings review of Intex and most recently approved RSP was adopted pursuant to Order Number U35739 and established a 3-year term of Intex's RSP, which extends through the test year ending June 30th of 2022. Intex's current RSP allows the company to earn a midpoint ROE and requires a resetting of rates in the event that the test period earnings fall outside of the prescribed band. After thoroughly reviewing the company's application and responses to data requests, staff filed its recommendation on February 5th, 2022, finding that Intex's request to renew its RSP is in the public interest, subject to certain conditions. And on March 23rd, 2022, Intex filed correspondence into the record of the matter indicating that it had no opposition to staff's recommendation. As there are no unresolved issues, staff recommends that the Commission, 1, exercise its original and primary jurisdiction under Rule 57 to consider the staff report and recommendation, and 2, approve that report and recommendation filed into the record on February 25th, 2022.
I motion to take the item up under Rule 57.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Scrumetta to take the item up under Rule 57.
Make a motion, we accept the staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Francis, second by Commissioner Green to accept staff's recommendation. No opposition? Next item.
Exhibit number 9 is the sister docket. It's docket number U36126. This is CenterPoint doing business as Energy Arkla and its application for renewal of a rate stabilization plan rider. It's a discussion and possible vote pursuant to Rule 57 on staff's report and recommendation, so this will also need 2 votes. Energy Arkla filed its application with the Commission for approval of renewal of its rate stabilization rider for a 3-year term, and the notice was published in the Commission's bulletin with no interventions being received. Arkla's RSP was initially authorized by Order Number U27676, and it has subsequently been amended by Order Numbers U32996 and 34667. The most recent earnings review of Arkla was adopted pursuant to 35740 and established a 3-year term of our current RSP extending through the company's test year ending June 30th, 2022. Arkla's current RSP allows the company to earn a midpoint ROE and requires a setting of rates in the event that the test period earnings fall outside of the prescribed bandwidth. After thoroughly reviewing the company's application responses to the data request, staff filed its recommendation on February 25th, 2022, finding that Arkla's request to renew its RSP is in the public interest, certain to subject conditions. On March 23rd, 2022, Arkla filed correspondence into the record on the matter indicating it had no opposition to staff's recommendation. As there are no unresolved issues, staff recommends that the Commission, 1, exercise regional and primary jurisdiction under Rule 57 to consider the staff report and recommendation, and 2, approve the report and recommendation filed to the record on February 25th, 2022.
Motion to take the item under Rule 57.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Scrumetta to take it under 57.
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Francis to take the item under, accept staff recommendation. Do we have any discussion on this one?
One thing, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Francisca Como to come up, please.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm just bringing her up. You can give thunder away.
Go ahead.
We'll put this in the chairman's hands.
No, please. It's okay, please.
I'll take over.
We just wanted to wish you aloha.
Aloha. Thank you.
Aloha.
Goodbye.
And we
Great.
thank you for all your years of service. I know you're going to be coming back, but we know you're leaving and going home, but we know you probably are going to at some point say, yeah, I want to go back to work, so we're just going to welcome you back. But I want to thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Wait. Commissioner Francis? Commissioner Francis, Commissioner Campbell, any word?
You going home with your children? That's
That's a job.
valuable to your kids, and you won't regret it. It's a great thing. And thank God you got a husband that can afford you to go on.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
That makes it a lot better when you can afford to go on. And will be the beneficiary of that. No doubt about it.
Francesca Como is, in case you haven't figured it out, is leaving after this B&E. Was soon to be leaving her position with the company, representing CenterPoint in this one and her other position that she right now, and take a little sabbatical, if you will, a little time off, if you will. So we'll be missing her around here, in short, in case you hadn't figured that out yet. And we just wanted to come up here and thank her for her service. I want to thank you for service. It's always a pleasure to meet with you. You've always been, the first time you worked over here at the commission, and then the second time you worked at the commission.
And the third time.
And there's been 3 already? Okay, and the third time. And you've always been respectful. You've always been prepared. You've always represented your company well, and you've always worked with the commission, as we always try to help the public and the people and the businesses of Louisiana survive through utility work. And you have been conscious and aware of the whole total landscape since you joined the commission shortly after law school. I think Mr. Shirley even learned a little bit from you,
You helped
over
John
the course
Shirley
of time.
through the rough patches.
And we'll thank John Shirley for into the fold at some point. And long and short of it all, we just want to thank you and tell you how much we appreciate you and wish you well and good luck with those beautiful babies and everything else you decide to do. Now we go. Commissioner Francis.
I've just noticed someone real special here today is Secretary of the Wildlife and Fisheries. Is Jack Montesey, is that you back there, Jack? Yeah. All right. Jack, come up here. Come up front.
He's going to see how many fish he has this afternoon, Mike.
Yeah, down in our country, we call him the alligator man, but we're real proud of Jack and his service to Wildlife and Fisheries. So just say a couple of words, Jack. Welcome to Toledo Bend.
Thank you so much, Mike. Mike's one of my old constituents from my days in the legislature. So, but I just wanted to come and show my face. I have a meeting here with the sheriff in a few minutes, but found out y'all were meeting here. Glad to have y'all over here. You know, I have a house here, not far from here, so I spent a lot of time here. I've been here for about 24 years. Wow. So Toledo Bend is special to me. And when I found out y'all were meeting, I said, maybe I need to get in there and tell those guys, you know, we have limits on this lake. If you happen to catch 1 or 2 more that you didn't count, just give me a call and we'll see if we can work that out. Okay?
Better be talking to Mike.
The fines aren't too bad, okay? So
Does it matter if we caught it on the Texas side of the lake?
yes. No, it's certainly a pleasure to be here. We have you know, this is an awesome resource the state has here, one of the biggest lakes in the country, probably in the top 5. And it's certainly an awesome place to visit. We've got a lot of people that come here. We try to do a lot of things to enhance that, especially with the fisheries that we have here. Toledo Bend has been one of the great lakes when it comes to bass fishing. And we're going to continue working with the Sabine River Authority and the folks here to make sure that our sportsman paradise stays alive and well. So glad to have you guys, man. It's nice to see y'all over here. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you for your public service. Thank you for putting those fish in the Mermentau River, too. That's good. We're looking forward to that.
Well, don't say that too loud, because they're going to be screaming for some here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Did we finish?
We did. We're on to exhibit number 10.
Next. Okay, let's move on.
Which is a FERC docket number PL21-3-000. This is the FERC's consideration of greenhouse gas emissions and natural gas infrastructure project reviews and its discussion and possible vote to retain Stone Pigman. And pursuant to discussions had with the Commission, Stone Pigman was directed to submit a budget for monitoring and filing comments in FERC docket number PL21-3 concerning proposed policy on the approval for evaluating submitting proposals for new natural gas pipeline and liquefied natural gas facilities. The FERC proceeding could affect Louisiana utilities that use natural gas to generate electricity and purchase natural gas from pipelines. While the scope for the entire docket is unknown at this time, Stone-Pigman submitted a budget for the 2022 comment process in the amount of $47,000 in fees and $1,000 in expenses. Further, as this is an estimate, Stone-Pigman agrees to provide updated estimates as necessary, including justification for any increases subject to the Commission's approval. Staff recommends that the Commission approve Stone-Pigman's budget in the amount of $47,000 in fees and $1,000 in expenses to assist the Commission in FERC docket PL 21-3.
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Francis. No opposition. Item is approved.
Moving on to exhibit number 11 is our reports, resolutions, and discussions. Under reports, we do have one update, which is from staff in Entergy, Louisiana, regarding docket number U35991. This was exhibit 16 on March's agenda.
Can you give us an update? Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. Paul Zimring again. 2 months ago in New Orleans, the Commission approved the revenue requirement and financing orders for Entergy Louisiana's storm costs related to Hurricanes Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida, and Winter Storm Uri. If you recall, there was a glitch in the way the payments were going to be made, such that first year's payments were going to be significantly higher than they would in subsequent years. And you asked the staff to go back and find a solution to this. We worked with Entergy, reported to you last month that we found a solution such that the costs on the bills would be, in fact, levelized, but we wanted to get all the parties to the docket to sign on to that. And I'm happy to report that we have reached agreement with all the parties. We'd like to thank ELL, the Alliance, Marathon, Walmart, and the LEUG, and particularly thank the Commission for their indulgence in waiting on us to get this done.
Thank you for your work on this one. Commissioner Green.
Well done. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next one, please.
I want to go back to exhibit number 9, which is CenterPoint's ARCLA's application fuel. I just want to clarify that we did have a motion by Commissioner Green and a second by Commissioner Scrametta for Rule 57, and then we had a motion by Commissioner Green and a second by Commissioner Francis to accept staff's report and recommendation, but I don't believe we actually made sure there was no opposition. So I just want to clarify that for the record.
You're absolutely right. We started the discussion.
Do we need
So
to
do
call
we have any opposition? I don't think we yeah, I think we didn't have any opposition, but if you need me to read it again, I'll do that.
No, I just want to clarify, because I know we called up Francis, so I just wanted to make sure everyone was
How
clear.
would you like us to correct it?
No opposition. Perfect.
No opposition, of course. Okay.
Moving back to exhibit number 11, under discussions, there's a discussion regarding general order dated November 16, 1972, and late fees charged by jurisdictional utilities, and this was at the request of Commissioner Campbell, and this was exhibit 16 last month.
Yes. You see it, Commissioner Campbell?
Yeah, what is it?
Late fees. It's the late fees, utility late fees.
Yeah, what about that? What are we doing? I want to look at that.
Okay. So we have a general order dated 1972 that has that all utilities should charge no more than 5%. All utilities charge various amounts. It's not a set 5% rate.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't sure if you wanted to just discuss that, or did you want us to look at the order?
I would like to discuss it because we've had some problems with late fees on some. I think they ought to sort of be uniform. Basic late fees. I don't know, different companies do different things. Some of them are extremely high. Could we look at that? And
Sure.
For next month to see about what we're doing with late fees. Some of them are, I think, out of line.
It's briefly on that, we have an order, it's an old order, it goes back to the 70s, that capped it at 5%, but to your point, not every utility charges 5%, so we can look into that, see who charges what.
Yeah, I've had several complaints. Some, I mean, I get exactly, but some of them seem extremely high. Some companies are doing different things. Looks like we ought to have some kind of uniform rule what you can charge on late fees, because of all the problems we've had in the state, we've had people with late being able to pay their bills, and then they get hit with a big late fee. It just makes it worse. But I don't know. Maybe it's in line, but I'd like to look at it. I'd like to see what these companies are charging and see if we can't come up with something reasonable to tell them this is what you can charge and this is what you can't charge.
Brandon, I'm sorry, Secretary Fry. Would you feel it's better to on a docket, or what is the best mechanism to help Commissioner Campbell achieve his goals on this one?
I think what we can do initially is kind of survey where we are, and then based on what we see there, if we do want to ultimately change it, yes, we'll have to docket because it's a general order, so we'll have to modify that. But
well, if you will, if you'd like me to interject on this a little further, how about if you and I and Commissioner Campbell discuss this over the next 30 days and we readdress it in the next meeting course of action?
Not a problem.
All right, great job.
It might not be that big a deal, but what I've heard, some of them are extremely high, and I'd like to know what companies charge for late fees and how they really handle it, you know, because I think they all have a different rate, a way of handling it. And since I have 3 companies in my area, SWEPCO, CLECO, and Energy, plus 3 co-ops, I'd like to sort of know what's going on.
See if they conform to the general in the first place.
Right. Right. All right, well, let's move on to the next one, please.
So still under exhibit number 11, intervention ratification, it's a discussion and possible vote to ratify LPSC interventions in RTO or ERSC related FERC proceedings. This matter is on the agenda for ratification pursuant to the scope of work approved in connection with the retention of stone pigment and United Professionals Company at the February 2021 business executive session for MISO, SPP, and ERSC participation. Interventions were filed on behalf of the Commission in FERC docket ER 22-1493 on April 19th of 2022. This intervention was filed for the purpose of monitoring issues related to MISO and or SPP and were filed at FERC by a regulated utility which impacts joint regulators. Staff recommends that the Commission ratify and or authorize this intervention.
Move to ratify.
Moved by Commissioner Scrimell.
Can I second, or is it on this?
No, it's
No,
not on
you
that.
can second.
I'll second.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's moved by Commissioner Scrimetta, second by Commissioner Green to ratify. No, any opposition? No opposition. Next.
Still under exhibit number 11, there's an OMS ratification. It's discussion and possible vote to ratify the vote taken by Commissioner Green, acting as the Commission's representative on the board of directors of the Organization of MISO States. And staff followed the protocol set forth in Special Order 17/2019 to consult with the Executive Secretary and the Chairman and to make a recommendation to Commissioner Green prior to the votes. The protocols also require that the Commission ratify any votes taken at a follow B&E. The vote to be ratified is summarized as follows. OMS held its monthly board meeting on April 14th, 2022, and it's one business action item for the April meeting, which was a vote on proposed comments for filing in FERC docket AD 22-5, which was dynamic line rating notice of inquiry. Dynamic line rating requires the installation of monitoring equipment to transmission lines and towers to measure in real time the thermal capabilities of transmission in order to allow for the more efficient use of existing transmission resources. The proposed OMS comments support the use of DLR where it would be economically beneficial, where congestion is a consistent problem, but not as a blanket requirement. The comments point out that the cost of the DLR equipment will fall on retail rates, even though the bids may be realized by others as well. At the recommendation of Commission staff, Commissioner Green voted to support the comments. And staff recommends that the Commission ratify Commissioner Green's vote taken on April 14, 2022 as the Commission's representative to the OMS Board of Directors.
Move to ratify.
Motion by Commissioner Scrimetta, and this one Commissioner Green has to abstain. Second by Commissioner Campbell. Any opposition? Hearing none, so ordered. Next, please.
Still under exhibit number 11, there are 2 directives. The first is a directive to staff regarding the cancellation of authority of regulated carriers with multiple violations. This was at the request of Commissioner Scrimetta. This was exhibit 18 on March's agenda, and the directive is as follows. After reviewing the record of recent transportation citations, it appears that no Commission policy expert when staff should pursue the cancellation of a regulated carrier's authority for certain violations. Therefore, when issuing citations to regulated common carriers, I direct staff to seek cancellation of the carrier's authority when that carrier has committed 3 violations of the Commission's rules, regulations, or the relevant statutes in Title 45 within a 3-year period. Citations resulting from a regulated carrier's failure to file an annual report, maintain insurance on file, obtain vehicle or driver stamps, or any other administrative citation would not be included in this 3 violation count.
I have a comment and a question. So at this point, and I think it's directed to you, Justin, is that right? That y'all can cancel somebody whenever you want, would this be helpful to provide y'all some guidance? And so would there be possibility to have a database where people, if they're going to hire a company, they could Google or find out how many violations the potential company they might hire has had, so that that could be public information?
Commissioner Green, Justin Bell on behalf of Commission staff. For the first question, at times the Commission staff can seek cancellation of a carrier for a single violation. This would, as you indicated, just give a little more clear guidance on when we would do that. As to the database, we do have, as you know, our public-facing database. We do not have a single document with the number of citations. That's something that we can work on and report back to you.
Let me ask the question.
No, do you think that this, if someone had 3 violations and they were canceled, could they come back a year later or indefinitely, like, if they wanted to reapply for the licensure, could they?
Pursuant to the directive, there's not a certain time within which they'd have to come back, so
But they would lose it and have to go through the process of reapplication if they wanted it.
Yes, correct.
How many have we canceled in the last 5 years?
For overcharging or any citations, violations like that, excluding failure to have insurance or annual rates, I haven't, any cases I've been involved with, I have not closed out any authority.
So I know there's a concern about how this could be over-regulation, but I think it, let me ask you this, if this rule were in place for the last 5 years, how many would have been canceled?
I'd have to go back and look at that. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
I mean, do you find this rule necessary, that there are people that are 4-time offenders?
We do have companies that we see. We have, for example, towing companies and household good companies that are repeats, for lack of a better word. They do come up. Whether they hit 3 or not, I'd have to look at the numbers to tell you that.
It seems like it would be helpful for people to know what the enforceable line to cross is.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner,
Don't you charge them a fine for doing this?
That's correct.
Y'all in the money business. You just charge one of my clients, one of my constituents $25,000. So, big deal. If I understand somebody breaks, why you take his license away from him because he has 3 violations? If the man pays you what you tell him to pay. How much, don't you charge him more for every time he has violation?
That's correct, Commissioner. As the citations, or there's more than
help me
one.
a little bit. I do something wrong. I'm hauling something I shouldn't be hauling. What's the first fine? How much?
Usually for a waste hauler, we do a $2,000, if they stipulate, if they settle with us, we do a $2,000 fine with half of that fine suspended per count.
So you can get $2,000, one violation, second one another $2,000, or do you?
It would depend on the scenario, but normally they do go higher, that's correct.
And another $2,000. I'm not for this. I don't want to take somebody's license because they've had 3 violations. Charge the hell out of them and let them pay it.
Well, then, just to add into this, then it just encourages them to build the fines into the cost of operation and just lets them promote violations. That's the whole issue. The staff came up with the concept of three violations. I'm okay with coming up with a rulemaking to find out what's the critical point, but at some point, you gotta not let people who are the constant violators continue to operate and do the job. Otherwise, they just build it into their operations and then just consider it a cost of doing business to do the wrong thing.
Well, I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Well, let me put it very clearly. If a guy knows that he can keep breaking the rules, get a fine, and find ways to get those costs built in doing it, and he can know that he can only get caught so many times and keep doing it, then there's no incentive for him to stop breaking the rules, because he can just keep going. But if he knows he's going to lose his license if he breaks the rules, then he's going to not do the thing that causes the violation in the first place. That's the problem, is that by not having a cutoff point, you encourage them to continue finding ways to continue the violation. If you go to traffic court and you constantly are doing stuff, eventually the judge takes your license away from you. That's just the way it is. And they may suspend it, they can cancel it, they can do a bunch of different stuff. What we're doing here is telling them, you want to go 100 miles an hour? Go ahead. and here's your fine. You want to keep going? And the guy goes, you mean all I got to do is pay money and I can keep doing this? Well, this is great. So they just keep doing it, and eventually they don't get caught. So that's the problem. So, this is a staff-generated concept of what could be the number, but if you want to open a rulemaking for it, that's fine. But eventually, it's sort of cool to think that there's no end to allowing violations. And that's the problem.
Mr. Bello, this authority these people have that we're talking about is that what they call that Rolex authority, that Cadillac authority?
It could be, Commissioner.
Huh?
It could be, yes.
Okay. So I got plenty of money, I'll say we keep eyeing them.
Mika?
If it's all right for me to jump in here, I'll ask the author, Commissioner Scrumetta, a few questions about it, because I'm concerned about it to some degree.
I'll make it real simple. Since everybody thinks that what we should do is let violators keep violating, I'll withdraw it.
No, I don't. First of all, that's not my question.
Okay, well, go ahead.
And second of all, that wasn't my attitude about it.
That's fine.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, and you could hear the tone of my voice is very calm and understanding, like everyone else wants to really, who may be reacting to it. I'm not.
I got it.
No, really, I really want to, I'm asking you because I know there's a reason you did it, so I want to understand it better. First of all, I didn't hear anybody say we want more people to violate. That's not what's going on here. I did hear that this was staff-generated. Did staff generate this?
Yeah, Commissioner, we worked with Commissioner Scrumetta's office, and we came up with the three-year, three-violation time frame.
So staff asked Commissioner Scrumetta to do this?
No, we said during an open meeting, and I asked the staff to come up with a plan during the open meeting, and they came up with the plan.
Okay, well, I understand that. Okay. Let's start off with the first question I think I heard. Does the ALJs currently, who would hear cases like this, have the authority to take someone's license now?
Yes.
Okay, so nobody thinks you can come here and violate forever and not have, just like you mentioned, a traffic court judge. They don't necessarily have a three-strike rule. This is what it reminds me of, three-strike rule. It also reminds me of mandatory minimums. It sounds like a lot of things we've done in criminal justice that have sometimes backfired or not been great criminal justice practices. So I just want clarity on it. If we have the authority to do it anyway, then why don't we do it? If we do create a rule like this, do we then limit the judges or the ALJ's opinion or authority in forcing their hand to decisions they otherwise didn't have to make? If it can be solved by fines, if the whole rule is just a directive, there's a lot of vagueness to it. For example, you mentioned there could be 3 violations on one stop. You could not have his insurance, maybe didn't have proper authority, or or damaged some goods and was found. Well, somebody could lose a license on moving one piece of furniture and completely out of business. And I don't know that we ought to be in the business of putting people out, but at the same token, I don't think anybody heard me say I want people to violate rules. That's not what this is. We have an ALJ system. We have a system of rules and fines already in place. I think maybe someone should talk to ALJs about being more considering the fines or the remedies or the consequences of breaking rules a little more seriously. But by no means do we want this to happen. I remember when I first came on the commission, we had a real problem with illegal movers, and it may still be somewhat of a problem. And we jumped through a million ways to solve that, but where we could, we did remove people, and we found other ways to get it done. I just think that I don't want to limit us by creating parameters that sometimes better judgment has no room in. You mentioned we've already taken some people's licenses in this past year when Commissioner Green was asking a question. So we have the authority to do that if the violations seem to call for it now. I'm only raising those issues because all I have is this one line here to read, and it just doesn't fill those gaps enough for me.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I withdraw my directive so we can end this.
It's not a bad idea. I just think it needs...
I think it's a terrible idea at this point because clearly I don't think that it's being given consideration and understanding, so I don't want to promote a elongated argument when I don't think that there's an understanding that we have habitual violators who are not being looked at for removing their licenses, either by the ALJ, and they just are basically saying, we'll just keep lines and do what we do wrong and harming the customers and consumers of the state, and we'll just not do it. So I'm just going to pull the directive. If there's already opposition to it, we're not going to have a vote on it that's going to pass, so I'm just going to pull it. You can open up a rulemaking on it, you can do something else, and you can do it under your own direction, but I'm just going to pull the directive.
I'll second that.
No, there's no second, I'll just pull it.
All right. Well, at this point, the chairman's going to jump in and say to Commissioner Scrumetta, the idea is not a bad idea. I just think it needed more development and discussion. I'm not opposed to it necessarily. I just think it deserved to be more developed, and I had questions I satisfied. I didn't expect you to pull it. I don't know that it would pass or fail if it were brought to a vote. I just thought in the open meeting, as we do at the commission, that we do it. It's absolutely 100% your prerogative to issue it as it is, pull it, and I respect that. But the discussion, and you're right, it's been raised and it's necessary. And so let's continue to meet with staff and see what we can do to help solve this. If we need more rules, if we need more remedies, let's put them in place. Because our job here at the commission is to help public weave through these things as far as movers, truckers, carriers, regulated carriers. That's an important part of what we do here. We talk about energy and power and water all the time, and broadband. Carriers is a big deal to us as well. We need to be able to have clear rules, understandable rules for not only the public, for the businesses to follow, and that's all I was trying to do here today. But let's move on to the next one. That does not require a vote. I think that has been pulled or pulled by Commissioner Scrumetta. I hope you and I continue to have this discussion. Let's go to the next one, please.
We have one more directive under exhibit number 11. It's a directive to staff to open a rulemaking regarding notice provided in connection with rate filings. This is at the request of Commissioner Scrumetta. The directive is as follows. I direct staff to open a rulemaking or expand the scope of any existing rulemaking to consider and propose draft rules that ensure notice of rate filings with the Commission is provided to local elected officials in the area in which the proposed rate would be implemented.
Secretary Fry can explain.
So, Commissioners, we had a situation, I'm going to try to be diplomatic and explain this, happened where there was a rate case the Commission voted on using our practice, and unfortunately people on the outside don't understand our practice and what all goes into setting rates, et cetera. But as I appreciated, some local officials were upset enough that it resulted in legislation being filed. It was very bad legislation. Myself, represented some of the companies, Commissioner Scrumetta, with the representatives and talked to it. And what came out of the discussion, the primary concern was people not being aware of when rate cases are filed. And even though we follow the requirements in the Constitution and publish it in the official journals as well as on our website, this would give another level of notice potentially. But it's a rulemaking, so it's, ultimately we'd have to vote on it. So that's the point of this directive.
Now, explain this to me. We're going to have to, on rate cases?
Yes.
You're going to have to notify every official?
Well, that would be the subject to the rule. We don't have the rule yet. That's going to be discussed in rulemaking, what officials would be notified or not.
Well, that'd be like when I was in Senate, I'd have to file every bill that I'm going to do with all the public officials, the mayors and all that. This is a body here that we have certain parameters. That's what we do. Now we're going to have to, our business, we have to okay it with all the mayors and all the city councilmen and all the police jury members and all the school board members. That's where we're headed here?
I don't think so. And it's ultimately going to be what we vote on in the rulemaking, assuming we go forward with it. It's the way I anticipated it would be the utilities themselves notified. Like, we have a rulemaking open right now the Commission's looked at in the past to consider requiring the utilities to notify every customer of a rulemaking.
Look, I understand about, I voted for every open meeting law from 1976 on. I'm for that. But when you run for the Public Service Commission, there are certain jobs you have to do here. I don't know anything that we do. Everything's in open. They can get on look you up on the internet. Lord knows I put out more press releases than everybody up here put together, 3 times. I tell everybody what I'm doing. But I don't want to have to, I don't think it's our job to tell the police jury, the school board member, the city council member, the justice of peace, the sheriff, the clerk, the tax assessor, the district attorney. They don't give a damn about all that we filed. They want you to do your job, and if they don't like it, it's going to be in the paper. They can criticize you. But why in the world would I have to file all this? And then if the district attorney wants to, he got to file all this stuff with me. And then the judge got to file all his court cases with me.
Chairman.
I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's just super duper government overreach.
So just because it's a directive, there's opposition, we have to vote on it.
Okay, let's let it play out a little bit for here now. Commissioner Campbell, Brandon, let me, Secretary Fry, let me ask you a question here. Can you briefly describe? You mentioned legislation that came from this. What was the consequence? What was that legislation trying to do?
The legislation, and it's my understanding the author is not moving forward with the legislation, partially because of the meeting we had. But, and look, I'll put on my former executive council hat. I think anything, and I've told this to, I think anything that's passed in Title 45 that purports to regulate the commission is unconstitutional. Do we want to go to court and sue them every time? We've done it a few times. That's not the purpose.
Tell me generally the language that the
so this legislation and
who was the guy too, if you don't mind?
it was Representative Dubuisson and Representative Dubuisson.
Where's he from?
She is from St. Tammany Parish.
St. where?
St. Tammany Parish. The legislation would require all public utilities and common carriers to file or to provide to all affected customers notices of any changes in rates, including the existing rates, the proposed rates, the rate schedule, the rationale, et cetera, which clearly was an issue, but we were able to say, look, once we had a meeting and explained what all we looked at, we alleviated a lot of those concerns, but there was still some. So.
Okay, how was that supposed to happen? By publication in the newspaper, or
no? It would have been through. It would have been required through mail, I think is what it said. Yes.
Snail mail.
Yeah, that the utilities would have to provide that. So if Energy was applying to increase its rates, it would have to send a mail to every customer, is what the legislation would have required.
Okay. Okay. That seems like a lot.
Do. Agree.
But there are other methods of notice.
Correct.
In the public record.
And that's what I think we have an existing rulemaking open right now that the commission opened some time ago. Of course. To look at other ways that we would require notice to be provided.
I'm not opposed to people being made aware. That's not a problem, but it would have to, I mean, depend on how serious. And I understand this is a directive to open a rulemaking to determine what we should do.
Exactly. We may ultimately determine not to do anything.
It might just be a line in the newspaper.
Correct.
By the time it's all done, or an internet blast or something like that, or an email or something, which would be a lot easier to inform a lot of people. I'm not opposed to this. I just want to know where we were headed.
Sure.
And people can speculate wildly up here, but I think in its final form might be very simple and reasonable.
I have a question. If the elected officials are also customers, aren't they also getting notified anytime this also happens? And secondly, couldn't this be a tweet? And then it's done.
We can look at all that. To your first question, though, are they being notified? They're being notified to the extent that their Constitution requires publication in the official journals, or they go to our website. There's no requirement that a customer be notified. Although Commissioner Scrum have a directive or a rule that was adopted that now when the commission votes on a rate schedule, we require the companies or ask them to provide notice. So for example, I'm a Baton Rouge water customer. When we had that interim rate increase last month and the month before, I actually got a bill in the mail saying this is to notify you that we requested interim rates or approved interim rates that will take effect on your next billing cycle. So we have that, but that's the extent of the notice we have right now.
Why on this bill, this lady forgot in her legislation, she forgot something. She should, to make her bill a little more juicy, she should have said, this rate increase was provided by the Public Service Commission of Louisiana. Thank you, Public Service Commissioner, for this rate increase. That's what she's trying to do. It's crazy. This is the nuttiest thing I've heard in a long, long time. Absolutely nuts. You know what Long said about this? He said he was against communism, he was against socialism, but that nuttism was the worst ism of all. This is straight nuttism.
So,
Call the vote.
I'll object.
No, it's got to have a vote on it, on this one.
It says a directive, but it sounds like Commissioner Campbell is opposing the directive, so there's a roll call vote. There needs to be a roll call vote.
I thought it was just a plain directive.
It's a directive.
It's just a directive. We're not voting to make any rule change. It's just a directive for us to open up a rulemaking or look at the existing rulemaking.
Is that it today?
No, we have another case.
You know, y'all been talking a lot up here about these items. All right,
It's an opposition vote. Roll call.
okay, so I guess we're having a vote on this. We have opposition to this one?
Yes.
All right, roll call, everybody ready? This is, do we have to read an in-ray or something? Do we?
No, it's just,
We've already done
it's a
that.
directive
Okay,
to,
can you read the directive one more time so we can know what we're voting on?
I've got it. I direct staff to open rulemaking or expand the scope of any existing rulemaking, which we have confirmed we do have an existing one, to consider and propose draft rules that ensure notice of rate filings with the commission is provided to local elected officials in the areas in which the proposed rates will be implemented.
Commissioner Francis?
I'm voting no on this idea of this directive.
All right, Commissioner Campbell?
No.
Commissioner Green?
No.
Commissioner Scrumetta?
Yes.
Chair votes no. Next item.
Exhibit number 12 is docket number U36318. It's Louisiana Water Company's application for an increase in rates, including interim rates, approval of formula rate plan, request for establishing regulatory asset, and request for establishment of an emergency reserve fund. Discussion and possible vote on an interim rate increase pursuant to Rule 57. It's at the request of Commissioner Francis. On June 13, 2018, Louisiana Water Company filed an application to increase its water and sewer rates, including a request for interim rate relief. LAWCO's request for interim rate relief is due to the increase in cost of power, chemicals, and lime sludge removal, and its request for an interim increase of 4.31% to cover the increased costs. The proposed interim rate would mean that a typical residential customer bill using 4,950 gallons per month would increase by approximately $1.26. Because proposed to begin implementing the interim rate, if approved, immediately upon commission approval, and would continue to charge it until a final permanent rate is established in this proceeding. Upon commission approval of permanent rates, the interim rate relief would be removed. Staff recommends that the commission exercise its original and primary jurisdiction under Rule 57 to consider LAWCO's request. And while staff makes no formal recommendation regarding the interim increase, staff does note that pursuant to applicable law, any interim increase should be subject to refund and applicable bonding requirements. If LAWCO's request is approved, staff would recommend that 1, LAWCO be required to file proof of the applicable bond requirements with the commission. 2, LAWCO be required to file an updated tariff indicating the interim rate and its terms with the Utilities Division within 30 days of the order approving such interim rate. LAWCO cannot begin charging the interim rate until proof of the applicable bond requirements and an updated tariff have been provided to and approved by staff. Interim rate shall be included in the separate line item charge on each customer's bill. This will need 2 votes as it's under Rule 57.
All right, guys, you ready? Commissioner Francis, do you want to?
Well, so we need to.
Motion to take the item up under Rule 57.
Second.
All right, hold on. So we got a movement by Commissioner, motion by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Francis to take the item up under Rule 57.
Now I make a motion that we accept staff recommendation.
And I have
Moved by Commissioner Francis, second by Commissioner Campbell. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
You want to read that?
Yes, sir.
You have a
Would you
motion?
like me to read that for you?
Wait, you have a further motion?
I have a motion for Commissioner Francis.
Well, I didn't know that. Anybody told me that. All right. Please go ahead.
Commissioner Francis moves that We approve LawCo's request for interim rates allowing a 4.31% increase in the company's retail rate effective May 1st, 2022. The interim rate will increase the average customer's monthly bill by $1.26 and remain in effect until the Commission's full decision on the merits of LawCo's rate application. The approval of the increase is subject to LawCo's posting with the LPSC Executive Secretary and into the record of docket U36318 a letter of credit in the amount of $627,917 based on the 4.31% increase to ensure refund if necessary.
Okay, and so we keep the same, we still moved by Commissioner
Francis.
Second by Commissioner Campbell. Any opposition? We are missing one commissioner,
No opposition.
but no opposition. Commissioner Scametta is not among the voting, either to agree or oppose, so.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn and go fishing.
Hang on a second. So this item is passed. Motion by Commissioner Francis to adjourn, second by Green. No opposition.